Jerusalem, sacred to billions, scarred by millennia. Wars have been fought in its streets, prophets have wept upon its stones. But the most powerful secrets may not lie in its history above ground, but in what slumbers beneath. In the spring of 1963, a team of Vatican-sponsored archaeologists arrived in East Jerusalem under the guise of researching early Christian relics. But this wasn't a public expedition. No news outlets reported on their arrival. No plaques or press conferences announced their work. Their mission was shrouded in silence, authorized at the highest levels of the Vatican's inner circle, and coordinated with a select few in the Israeli government. They weren't looking for relics. They were following a map. This map wasn't drawn by any modern cartographer. It came from the Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, the Vatican's secret archives. It was said to be copied from an original scroll found in the catacombs beneath Rome in 1611, written in a mixture of Aramaic and a ciphered dialect of Latin known only to a handful of medieval monks. The scroll told of a subterranean chamber deep beneath Jerusalem, containing an object not of this world, not merely sacred, but forbidden. The deeper the team dug, the stranger things became. Stone passages were discovered that did not match any known architectural style. Impossibly smooth tunnels cut as if by machines, spiraling geometries that bent perception itself. There were symbols burned into the walls as if by searing heat, older than Hebrew, older than Sumerian. They pulsed faintly under torchlight. Then came the first incident. 2 workers disappeared for 12 hours. When they re-emerged, their fingernails were blackened. One was speaking in a language that no one recognized. When he finally collapsed, he clutched a shard of obsidian to his chest, whispering, "They're still here." The Vatican ordered all work halted for 3 days. Priests were flown in, not just any priests, but members of the Jesuit order who specialized in exorcism, ancient languages, and, most tellingly, archaeotheology, a shadowy discipline whispered about in certain ecclesiastical circles. The tunnels were blessed. Holy water turned to steam on contact with certain walls. Readings from Geiger counters spiked erratically, then shattered. Whatever lay beneath was not simply ancient, it was active. On the 11th night, the team reached a sealed chamber carved into solid basalt. A single symbol was etched into its face, a serpent devouring its own tail. The Ouroboros. It took hours to break the seal. When they finally opened it, they found something no one could have expected, and something no one was prepared to understand. At the center of the chamber was a sarcophagus, but not Egyptian, and not designed for any human form. Its proportions were wrong, too long, too narrow, and it emitted a low, resonant hum like the vibration of a tuning fork buried deep within the earth. Inside the chamber walls were writings in what experts now believe to be Proto-Enochian, a theoretical pre-human language described only in suppressed texts like the Book of Soiga and Liber Loagath. The inscription spoke of the Watchers who fell, the Stargate of the East, and the eye that sees beyond time. Then came the blackout. All communication ceased. Radio contact with the surface went dead. For 3 days, nothing was heard from the Vatican team. When contact was finally re-established, only one archaeologist remained. The others had vanished, or, as the survivor claimed, been taken. His account was erratic, fragmented by trauma and what Vatican psychologists later described as nonlinear cognition. He spoke of voices humming in geometries, of angels carved in smoke, and of a device, sealed within the sarcophagus, that told the future in blood. It wasn't long before the Vatican ended the excavation. The chamber was resealed, the entrances were collapsed with controlled demolitions. The survivor was placed in a monastery in northern Italy and lived in silence for the rest of his days. The official story? A failed dig, nothing found, documents misplaced. But what happened next is even more chilling. Within a year, 3 of the involved Jesuit priests died under mysterious circumstances. 2 were found with identical phrases carved into their flesh. "He awakens in the deep." The third vanished completely. No trace, not even dental records. Why would the Vatican, a religious institution rooted in faith, conceal evidence of what might be the greatest archaeological find in human history? Some theorists believe it wasn't a matter of religion, but control. The object found beneath Jerusalem may have posed an existential threat, not to God, but to the version of history we've been allowed to believe. If the Watchers of Enoch were real, if the legends of fallen angels bringing forbidden knowledge had a physical, technological anchor, it would rewrite the human story from Genesis to Revelation. Others suggest the object wasn't merely ancient, it was still functioning, a machine perhaps, a gate, or a prison. And then there's the most disturbing possibility of all. What if it was a warning? In 1978, a classified memo leaked from the Vatican's Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. It made vague reference to the Jerusalem artifact and a directive known only as Project Phylum Serpentis, the serpent's thread. The memo outlined a policy. All recovered materials were to be stored not in the Vatican Museum, but in the deep vaults beneath Castel Gandolfo, the Pope's summer residence, known for housing the Church's most arcane treasures. Since then, multiple independent researchers and whistleblowers have tried to uncover more. Most fail, some vanish. But one man, a former Swiss guard named Matteo Carducci, made a deathbed confession in 2004. He claimed he had seen the artifact with his own eyes, encased in lead, stored beneath 20 meters of bedrock, guarded day and night by armed clergy. He described it as a mirror that doesn't show your reflection, it shows what watches you from behind it. Why would something buried beneath Jerusalem be so heavily guarded thousands of miles away? What did the Vatican really find? And more importantly, why are they so afraid we'll find it again? The public never heard of Matteo Carducci. His confession, recorded on a rusted cassette and smuggled to an anonymous archivist in Prague, was dismissed as another fringe tale in a sea of conspiracies. But those familiar with the inner workings of the Vatican knew better. They knew Carducci wasn't lying. He wasn't exaggerating. He had said too much. The tape vanished 2 months after its existence was hinted at on a now-deleted online forum frequented by Vatican dissidents. The archivist? Dead of a supposed heart attack, age 41. His apartment was ransacked, yet only one item was missing. A small black cassette labeled JSRM Gate 1/3. But something had already leaked. A single phrase spoken by Carducci near the end of the recording. It isn't just beneath Jerusalem, it reaches beneath everything. What did he mean? Hidden among the scrolls in the Dead Sea caves, long believed to be merely spiritual texts, were diagrams. One in particular, designated fragment XN93, has baffled researchers for decades. Written in Paleo-Hebrew, the text describes a machine of descent, a spiral that leads to the foundation stone of the world. What made fragment XN93 so significant? It maps onto a subterranean layout discovered by radar imaging beneath the Temple Mount, a layout never publicly acknowledged. The tunnels were ancient. Some extended over 30 kilometers outward beneath the city and beyond. And at the center of the spiral, matching precisely with Carducci's account, was a hollow void, a space that should not exist. There were whispers of a second expedition in the 1980 cents, completely off the books. This time it wasn't priests or scholars who descended into the dark. It was soldiers. Operatives trained not in archaeology, but in containment. Satellite imagery from that era, long buried in government archives, shows heat signatures emerging from beneath East Jerusalem. They pulsed in rhythmic bursts, almost biological in pattern. One researcher compared them to the electrical discharges of a dreaming brain. Then the imagery stopped. All satellite access to that region was restricted under the guise of regional conflict. But those who had seen the images before they vanished said one thing. The pulses were increasing. The Vatican's silence on the matter was deafening, but silence is a language of its own. Why else would they reactivate Project Phylum Serpentis in 1993, 3 decades after the initial discovery? According to leaked documents from a whistleblower known only as Adriel, the Vatican began to trace geometric echoes around the globe, sacred sites, Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, Teotihuacan, were found to share mathematical alignments with the Jerusalem chamber. Each site corresponded to a node in an ancient global grid. The implications? The object beneath Jerusalem wasn't an isolated relic. It was part of a system, and worse, it may have been the control node. In 2001, a Vatican fund excavation beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre uncovered an ossuary made of black limestone. Inside was a scroll, perfectly preserved. Its language, neither Aramaic nor Latin, but something resembling cuneiform twisted through a fractal structure. The scroll told of the Gate of the Deep, a construct built not by man, but by those who walked the stars before men were shaped from dust. It claimed that a seal had been placed over this gate, encoded not through symbols but consciousness, a living lock, requiring a mind attuned to the frequency of the divine. And then came the most shocking detail. The scroll claimed the seal had been weakened in the year of the Twin Towers. Many saw this as metaphor, a poetic flourish. Others knew better. In response, the Vatican initiated a quiet recall of dozens of religious relics held in museums across Europe and the Americas. These relics were not openly identified, but shipping logs show their destinations: Vatican City and Castel Gandolfo. Why the sudden urgency? Because something had changed. Survivors from the original 1963 team, 2 monks under permanent vow of silence, were relocated to a secure cloister in the Pyrenees. But one left behind a drawing, a shape sketched repeatedly in charcoal, an elongated diamond with concentric circles and 8 protruding spokes. It matched precisely with carvings discovered in Göbekli Tepe, a site predating Stonehenge by thousands of years. The meaning of the symbol? No one knew, until 2008. A team of physicists studying ancient geometry for quantum applications stumbled upon something chilling. The shape functioned as a stabilizing field pattern for higher dimensional objects. In simple terms, it was a blueprint for something not meant to exist in 3-dimensional space. The design could, in theory, hold a structure outside of time, or a prisoner. Suddenly, the secrecy made sense. The chamber beneath Jerusalem might not be a tomb, it might be a cage. And the Vatican didn't bury it to protect us from what they found. They buried it because something inside was never meant to be free. The final confirmed reference to the chamber appears in a Vatican memo from 2013, distributed only to members of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. It referred to the Jerusalem Gate and noted a warning: no vibrations, sonic or seismic, are to be allowed within a 0.7 km radius. The document also mentioned a term never before seen: the resonance event. What is the resonance event? Why did the memo state that a full planetary alignment due in 2026 would risk triggering harmonic convergence with the containment layer? And why is the Vatican building a new underground facility beneath the city of Jerusalem, at a depth far beyond modern utility? Who or what is the Vatican trying to hide? And more importantly, what happens when hiding is no longer enough? The warning in the 2013 Vatican memo, no vibrations within a 0.7 K radius, wasn't about structural damage. It was about resonance. You see, the chamber beneath Jerusalem didn't just sit silently in the rock. It hummed. Faintly, infrequently. But when it did, the hum was measurable, not just acoustically, but electromagnetically. Its frequency? 7.83 Hz. The Schumann resonance, the frequency of the Earth's electromagnetic field. The frequency of the human brain in deep meditation. It wasn't the earth that was reacting to something buried. It was the other way around. The Church's inner circle, known only as the Congregatio Custodium, or the Congregation of the Keepers, was formed in the late 1400s. While public records present them as theological advisors, their true mandate was custodial, to watch over artifacts and sites not of this world. By 2014, the Congregatio had activated all 33 of its known field agents. But they weren't alone anymore. Enter the Black Triangle Initiative, a joint project between elements of the Vatican, NATO, and private contractors in aerospace. Officially, it didn't exist, but whistleblower Adriel shared one chilling note from their communications. Stargate protocols initiated. Coordinate resonance across nodes. Do not attempt physical access during phase shift. Phase shift? To the average mind, that term means little, but in classified physics circles it implies one thing: dimensional bleed, a momentary weakening of the barriers between layers of reality. What could possibly cause that? Turns out something already had. In 2015, just outside Jerusalem, multiple residents began reporting vivid, recurring dreams. Dreams of enormous halls carved of stone, lit by glowing runes, where shadows moved against the direction of the light. The details were so consistent that neurologists began mapping shared symbols from patient accounts. Every dream ended the same way, with a tall figure turning toward the dreamer and whispering a word none of them understood, but all could pronounce. Nehemiah. What does it mean? No ancient language had a perfect match, but buried in a 12th century Coptic manuscript held in the secret archives of St. Catherine's Monastery, the word appears once. Nehemiah. The unnameable architect, he who laid the world's first cornerstone, he who waits beneath the crossways of time. And that brings us back to the crossways. This term was found encoded within the Codex Latica, a forbidden Vatican text dating back to 1499. The Codex speaks of 4 points of intersection on earth, places where the natural and supernatural meet. One of these, it says, is beneath the City of Peace, ancient Jerusalem. Another? Unknown. But a new set of documents surfaced in 2017. Sent anonymously to a British historian, they included Vatican travel logs and one stunning discovery: a charter flight manifest showing 3 high-ranking clergy flown directly to Bouvet Island, an uninhabited frozen rock in the South Atlantic. Why? Satellite scans from 6 weeks prior had detected something beneath the ice, a hexagonal structure emitting faint radio pulses, identical to those once measured beneath Jerusalem. Was this one of the other crossways? Back beneath the Temple Mount, the seismic anomalies intensified. Geophysicists hired secretly by the Vatican recorded brief pulses, always at night, always at the same moment, 3:33. I am Jerusalem time. The pattern suggested a rhythmic awakening, like the heartbeat of a long-dormant thing. And then came the 2019 containment breach. The Israeli Antiquities Authority denied it. The Vatican refused comment. But internal reports detail a 9-minute power loss at the subterranean containment site, followed by what was described only as localized gravity variance. One field technician's final log read, "It's like the room bent inward for a moment, as if space remembered another shape." He died 12 hours later from brain hemorrhage. Autopsy? Sealed. Following the breach, a new structure was quickly erected, an underground choke field generator, allegedly designed to dampen acoustic and magnetic waves. It was installed not to protect the artifact, but to weaken it. Yet the dreams resumed. In Rome, in Cairo, in Cusco, thousands saw a structure of glowing stone beneath the earth and heard a voice say, "Do not awaken what was placed beneath the seal of stars." Even more disturbing, some of them saw the same symbol, the eight-spoked diamond, now appearing in stone carvings, cave paintings, and even crop circles around the globe. The Vatican called it the Mark of the Gate. And then came a break in the silence. In 2021, Cardinal Pietro Gaedan, head of the Congregatio Custodum, vanished from the Vatican. Days later, a letter in his handwriting appeared on the dark web, addressed to all seekers of truth. In it, he described the chamber as an interstice between this world and the first world. What is the first world? The letter also contained a cryptic warning. They are preparing for the breach, not to stop it, but to witness it. The crossways will open, the stars will align, and what was placed beneath Jerusalem shall rise to reclaim its design. And with that, silence once more. But something was shifting. In 2022, an earthquake struck Jerusalem, magnitude 4.6, mild on the surface. But the tremor originated not in the crust, but in the mantle, a place no natural quake could begin. The energy signature matched the 1963 readings from the First Vatican expedition. A signal, an invitation. In 2023, two events occurred within 24 hours of each other. The first, a small, localized power outage in Jerusalem's Old City, affecting less than a square mile. The cause? Transformer failure, the authorities claimed, but residents reported something else. A low-frequency hum that seemed to rise from the ground, vibrating windows and causing dogs to howl in unison. The second, a Vatican server farm in Castel Gandolfo went dark for exactly 33 minutes. The backup diesel generators never kicked in. Forensics showed that every magnetic drive inside the data center had been wiped simultaneously, not digitally but physically, as if exposed to a sudden magnetic inversion. The files lost? Classified records connected to the Crossways project. Some believe the Vatican let the breach happen. But why? In a series of intercepted transmissions, leaked by whistleblowers with ties to the ESA and Jesuit astronomical networks, Project INRI was reactivated. Its true function had long been disguised as deep space observation. In truth, it was designed to track ground-based anomalies, fluctuations in reality's underlying constants, light speed, magnetic permeability, and even time itself. And now those constants were shifting near Jerusalem. One document, labeled only Cosmic Rhesus, detailed a sharp spike in local temporal distortion. Clocks within a defined 0.4 km radius were losing 0.27 seconds per hour. The same effect had previously been observed in only one other location, beneath the Ross ice shelf in Antarctica. The same symbol, the eight-spoked diamond, was now carved into bedrock at both sites. But what was this code trying to do? The answer came from a surprising source. In mid-2024, an anonymous archivist at the Vatican released pages from the Liber Redemptus, a forbidden gospel older than the Council of Nicaea. Preserved in Syrian cedar, the book contains a passage referring to the vessel beneath the city of the prophets. This vessel is described not as an object, but as an interface, a bridge between man and what came before man. One phrase stands out. The ark is not the end of something holy. It is the lock that keeps the ancient design sealed. Sealed beneath Jerusalem. Now the pattern was undeniable. Across the world, strange symbols were surfacing in sites connected to lost civilizations. Göbekli Tepe, Mohenjo-Daro, Tiwanaku, all showing signs of a synchronized activation or reactivation. Whatever was beneath Jerusalem wasn't just waking up, it was calling out, and someone or something was answering. That's when the Black Bishop arrived. Not a nickname, not a code. A literal figure, robed in matte black, face hidden by an obsidian mask, seen exiting a private jet in Tel Aviv in September 2024. No press, no entourage, only a Vatican-marked security detail. But he wasn't alone. Satellite images leaked by a private aerospace firm revealed a 20-meter metallic construct, hexagonal, with openings on each face, lowered beneath the temple mount by night. The equipment of unknown design, not publicly attributed to any known defense contractor. Then, silence. Until the night of December 12, 2024. At precisely 3:33 a.m. local time, the same minute that had triggered magnetic pulses before, the construct emitted a light so intense it briefly registered on weather satellites as a false solar flare. The next morning, every camera in the old city that had been connected to a network was dead, their internal memory corrupted, not erased, rewritten. Engineers later decoded fragments of what the cameras recorded in that 1 second. A doorway, suspended in stone, but not opening into the chamber, opening out. In the days that followed, strange weather patterns formed above Jerusalem. Not storm clouds, vortices, rotating geometries in the sky, like outlines of structures invisible to the naked eye. And still the Vatican said nothing. But inside the Archivum Secretum, one final record was decrypted, a video, time-stamped November 11, 2024. It shows a conversation between two senior clerics. Cardinal Gaydon offered a commentary, unnamed voice. Then we record, we kneel, and we pray it still remembers mercy. The question now is not what they found beneath Jerusalem. It's what they unleashed. And if the ancient vessel is truly an interface, then the ones who sealed it were not just keeping something in. They were keeping us from finding it.